making this video to talk about my testimony to how God rescued me from the world. My name is Adon Hernandez. Right now I'm 21, but I've been a believer for around 3 years. Where do I even start? Well, as a kid, my family was mainly a churchgoers. We didn't really, we just went to church. We didn't read the Bible or study it at all, or see what it said. We sort of just went along with what people said and what the pastor said in church. We just didn't read it at all, you know. But back then, even though I never read it, I always loved God and everything that He did, or at the very least, the little that I understood. But I think back then I didn't know God at all. I never read the Bible. I didn't know what Jesus, the significance of His sacrifice, or what God went through during the Israelites, how they kept coming to Him and leaving Him, coming to Him and leaving Him over and over and over again, you know. But it was really during 2015, once my mom got deported and just a lot was changing, that I really just turned away from God in every way. It first started with just distraction to other things, like innocent things, to be honest, which aren't bad. They really aren't, you know, like certain music from the world or certain video games. They're not bad, but they can become a distraction. And it first began that way. I just stopped, at the very least, the little that I knew, you know. Mainly what I just did was just pray here and there and listen to Christian music. That's all I did, but like I said, I never read the Bible back then. Never read it, I never studied it, I never did anything. But, like I said, I guess we never were really true believers. We were just churchgoers. And after that is when my mind really began being open to all this other stuff, you know, the suffering that is in the world, well, yeah, it all began that way. Just seeing how much suffering there was in the world. Back then, you know, I was all into girls and women, and I was like, how come they don't like me? You know, I don't go and I don't steal, I don't get into fights. Yet they don't like me. They don't come after me. Even though in reality they did, just that as a kid I didn't realize it. I just realized others rather than myself. And anyways, and it started like that, with just realizing all the suffering, everything that happened in the world. But yeah, eventually I began dating here and there, but I think everything really began taking a turn after when I was around 15 years old. I ended up, I had this beautiful relationship with this girl. I'm not gonna say her name, but this was when I lived in Massachusetts, Worcester. I loved her very much, but during that time I was beginning to be infected with pornography. So I became a very toxic man. After that I moved to Utah, which is where everything began going downhill. You know, I was rebounding. Even though I was 16, I was going into pornography, dating this girl and this other girl, and fornicating. That's when everything began going downhill. I fell into depression because well, yeah, I missed the girl that I actually loved, which the girl from Massachusetts, you know. And everything just kept going downhill. After a while, I became very, very horrible. You know, first I was disillusioned with the world and my life. I hated my life. I always just listened to depressed for music and everything, which doesn't help. Obviously, when you're in depression, you listen to depressing music. It doesn't help. It just makes you go even more and more deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole of depression. But yeah, I became evil, man. I just sought for pleasure. Um, I'd have thoughts of taking advantage of women who had never, you know, done anything, right? Or like, well, more like women who had never had sex or anything like that. I became evil.